Operation Arsenal is back. God, I've missed this. I've missed Arsenal playing. I've really enjoyed the World Cup this summer, but I've missed the Premier League, and I'm so glad it's back. And I'm glad that I'm able to start talking about my beloved Arsenal again. It feels like it's been a long time, and it's a fresh start, guys. This is the start of something absolutely huge in this club. It's the biggest moment in its history over the last 6 months or so, with Arsene Wenger leaving the club and Emery starting. It's a completely new era. And today, to start off with, Man City, I mean, they smashed out 100 points last year in the Premier League. This was always going to be a very difficult task. And to get it as your first game, it's extremely unlucky. And then to get Chelsea straight after as well. I mean, it is what it is. And today's video is not what you're expecting. It's not going to be me upset and complaining about losing a game, because it's not really the big picture, is it? We're playing against the champions who, like I said, demolished teams last year and reached a record 100 points in the Premier League. We weren't going to realistically win this game or get anything out from it, not even a draw. And in the end, losing 2-0 was quite a respectable result. We could have easily gone 3-4, 5-0 down, but we could have scored ourselves. 2 goals ruled offside. We had the ball in the back of the net twice, but when it's offside, it's offside. They were correct decisions. And actually, throughout the game, I thought we did quite well. In some areas, I think we still have some problems in this team, and there's no doubt in my mind that it's going to take a while for Emery to really get to grips with the team, with the squad that he's working hard with, I'm sure, but he's ultimately inherited it from a manager who, I mean, spent so long doing the same things, the same training, the same team selections, the same types of transfers. Everything that has been handed over to Emery is years in the making. It's not like you can just take that and make it your own. He's brought in a couple of faces. You know, Socrates, Torreira featured today as well, Guendouzi. We had Leno on the bench. Not really sure why. Lichtsteiner ultimately playing out of position today, but that's just what it is. He played at left back and did very well, actually. I feel for Emery, because he will have people going, what? New manager, same issues, Emery out. But I think, let's be honest, most Arsenal fans, let's say 80, 90% of the Arsenal fans today will be saying, look, it's Man City. Let's judge this 10, 20 games into the season, and that's exactly how I'm feeling. I'm not expecting anything this year. All I want is the team to settle, to work together as a team, to gel together and bond. That is what I want. I want Emery to feel at home by the end of this year, that this is a long-term job for him. I want him to feel at home. This season is all about building up to our future. If we can get top 4, fantastic. If we can win the Europa League, brilliant. But I'm just not expecting it. And games like today are going to happen, especially when it's a new era for the club. It's very, very strange for us. It was the most weird thing seeing Emery walk out at the beginning of this game and not seeing Arsene Wenger. It's alien to me to have a manager at the side of the pitch barking orders and almost kind of playing with the players. He was involved just as much as they were. I'm so used to seeing Wenger just sitting back in his chair, not doing enough. I was so sick of seeing that. I really was, and it's refreshing to see Emery, a younger man for sure, and so much energy about him. I love that. I get so jealous, or have been so jealous over the years, watching other managers on the touchline getting involved, really getting the players moving, asking them to move into position. It just felt like with Wenger we didn't have that for a long time. So there's a lot of new things, and what I want to do today is, it's probably going to be a long video, hopefully you don't mind. I want to go through the entire team today and give my thoughts, and they're pretty much all positives, by the way. But before I do that, let's talk about some of the negatives. Let's get them out of the way, because there were some negatives tonight, and I have them fresh in my mind right now. I mean, the game's finished literally 10 minutes ago, so I want to try and get these out. And there isn't many, don't worry. But Petr Cech actually had a very good game in terms of making saves. He made plenty of saves which were, A lot of teams would have conceded those chances because they don't have as good as a keeper as Petr Cech or as an experienced keeper. So there's no doubt he made some good saves today. However, his distribution, his control on the ball is questionable. It's very poor. And I would be extremely nervous as a defender for Arsenal giving the ball to Petr Cech unless it's on his left foot. Every time the ball went to his right foot, except from one time with his left when he almost scored an own goal, every time on his right foot he looked so uneasy. He was almost like, I don't want the ball here. I want to shift it onto my left because then he can hoof it up the pitch. With his right foot, it felt very, very dangerous. And you see the ball go back to Man City. They will pass it back to Ederson, who, by the way, didn't have a particularly great game either. But the difference is, I mean, the skill level with the ball at his feet. When you compare Cech and Ederson, completely different level there. He's able to take the ball under control and pass it. That's what Ederson is so good at. That's why they signed him. They want to play out from the back. If we want to do that, Petr Cech is not the answer. That's the biggest negative for me. Petr Cech, great goalkeeper when he's able to just do his thing, make saves. He is a shot stopper. He's got so much experience. But Leno, fresh signing, German international. I know he hasn't been the number one keeper for Germany, and he probably won't be because there's quite a few ahead of him. But there's no denying it. Leno is a better goalkeeper than Petr Cech, especially with the ball at his feet. He's much more composed. He will give our defence more confidence. He will be an outlet for them. Pass it back to Leno. He can deal with it. With Petr Cech, it felt like the players were almost more nervous and didn't want to pass it back. And when they did, some of the issues we were having, that moment of madness where Cech tried to hook it with his left foot and actually almost hooked it into the back of his own net, I almost died inside. So that's a massive negative for me. The other negative I want to speak about is Granit Xhaka. I'm a big fan of the guy. I really like the fact that he's very physical. He's a bit of a brick house. We've needed that for many, many years. But that comes with a massive downside to his game, and that is his mobility. He's extremely slow and sluggish, and ultimately he is a bit of a liability. And I don't like that because Granit Xhaka shouldn't be in the position where if he loses the ball, it's straight to our back line. Granit Xhaka is not a defensive midfielder. That's what I'm trying to say. And today he wasn't playing as a defensive midfielder, but he found himself in that position because Guendouzi, I mean, the guy was great today, but he's young, very inexperienced, often out of position when it came to the defensive side of his game. So Xhaka had to step in. And with Ramsey as the other centre mid, he likes to get forward. It leaves Xhaka in some pretty precarious positions. And there were many times where he received the ball and he's just not quick enough to react, or his body's just not quick enough to get around the ball to stop a City player taking it off him. He's too slow. And I love Xhaka because I think his left foot is absolutely quality. His passing range, his vision, his brutality. He's so good at just getting his body in front of things and blocking things and getting a challenge in. Very aggressive player. He will get a lot of yellow cards and red cards, of course. He has been getting them for his whole career. But it just makes me nervous. For me, I think our starting formation should be a 4-3-3. It seems to work really well with Emery and with the players we've got. And I would put Guendouzi in, I would put Ramsey in, and I'd put Torreira in. I think if you're bringing in a new signing like Torreira for £27 million or whatever it was, you've got to play him, haven't you? Now, obviously, he will play. I think there's an element of him lacking fitness, lacking a bit of sharpness. You know, he had a big break from the World Cup until now. I'm pretty sure that what I just said will be the midfield three. And it's crazy that Guendouzi is getting in the team. When you really think about how young he is, he's never really played at the top level. He's very, very inexperienced, but he is brilliant. I'm already onto the positives. So, Guendouzi, however you want to pronounce his name. For me, and this might shock a lot of people, he's better than Xhaka already. He's better than El Neni already. He has the potential to be a truly great midfielder for us. He has to be in the team if he's fit, ahead of Xhaka. And that's just the way I feel. It's my opinion. I can't have a wrong opinion. If you disagree with me, that's absolutely fine. I love Guendouzi just because he wants the ball. He's so eager to be involved. And don't get me wrong, he will make mistakes. He's very young. He made a huge mistake today, letting Aguero in, and they very almost scored. If Aguero wasn't so greedy and just passed it over to De Bruyne, he would have got me some points as well in Fantasy League. I'm doing terrible. Give De Bruyne the goal. This is the problem with Fantasy League football. I want other players to do well against me. It's silly, really. So, talking of Guendouzi again, I don't know where his best position is. I feel like at CDM, in the middle of the three midfielders, again, might be a bit of a liability. Not the quickest player, and of course, I mean, I don't mean this in a horrible way, but not the smartest player, footballing-wise. He's very young and very inexperienced. He's a toddler compared to the likes of Ramsey. He doesn't know all the tricks of the trade yet. He's so young. So for me, shift him over to that left side where Xhaka was. Bring Torreira in as the bruiser in midfield, even though he's only 5'6". He's just so great at chasing down the ball. Reminds me of Alexis. That pit bull mentality, just grabs the ball, really wants to get to it all the time, just never stops running. And then Ramsey on the right side. I think we've got a great versatile midfield there, and we can shift it around, and have Guendouzi and Torreira sitting back so Ramsey can get forward, and that three that's like this turns into two and then a one, and it's that triangle that we need to pivot around. I think there's great potential there, and unfortunately that does mean Xhaka doesn't make it. But that's just football. I think Xhaka's a great player. He's 4th, 5th in line to be captain. And I think he deserves that. He's a leader for sure. But based off today, against a team like Man City, it was an issue for sure. Mkhitaryan, I want to have a quick word on him because, again, where's his best position? Feels like we had him and Ozil out on the wings, but they weren't playing on the wings, and they're not wingers. I don't blame them one bit. We didn't have any width tonight because the fullbacks couldn't get forward enough with Walker and Mendy getting back on us. It was impossible for our wing-backs to get forward, which is why I'm not going to judge this game too much. It's a completely freak game. It really is. You're just not going to come up against a team like City every week. So in the future, I expect Ozil and Mkhitaryan, or whoever's playing on the wings, to actually get wide as much as possible and then cut inside if they need to. If you compare it to Man City, they had Sterling really wide. They had Bernardo running on the right side really wide. Mahrez when he was on. And it was creating problems because there's so much space in between the wingers and the strikers that the defenders of Arsenal just couldn't keep up. We've got quite a slow defence with Mustafi and Sokratis. And Lichtsteiner isn't the quickest anymore. Bellerin, I know he's quick, but his positional awareness defensively is really quite odd sometimes. It caused havoc, and we don't have that. So I don't know how we're going to be able to really do anything about that without a winger in the squad. I mean, you could say Iwobi's a winger. Is he really, though? I often think he's better, more central. Nelson, I mean, yeah, okay, he would sit wide on the right, but is he good enough to get into this Arsenal Premier League side? I don't think he's quite ready. So that's something we need to work on for sure. But again, I started talking about Mkhitaryan. Unfortunately, I think he's another player that doesn't get into my first 11. I'd be going with Ozil on the right, Lacazette down the middle, and Aubameyang on the left. Lacazette in for Mkhitaryan. That's my thoughts. I thought when Lacazette came on, he changed the game for us. We looked much more threatening. And Aubameyang wasn't his game. I think, unfortunately, against City, you're not going to get much of the ball to Aubameyang. It's a midfield battle against City. It really is, and they often win it. What else did I want to talk about? Oh, Lichtsteiner. I mean, I feel bad for Maitland-Niles because he was put in a very difficult position tonight against Mahrez at left back. We've got a huge injury crisis down that left side. Kolasinac, Monreal not fit. We had to put someone else at left back, and I think we've learnt that Lichtsteiner can do the job just fine. He was up against one of the best wingers in the league in Mahrez, and often Sterling drifting over, Bernardo Silva, and he did absolutely fine. You can tell that he's an experienced player. At 34 years old, he's had hundreds of games and quite a few at left back. So I think in the future, especially against a team like City, you put your experienced man on that side if there is an injury. And Maitland-Niles, I think, actually did okay, considering he's not a left-back. He's only played there a couple of times because he's had to, but he's definitely a midfielder, and he will be a great player for us, I'm sure. Hopefully the injury isn't anything serious, but I thought Lichtsteiner came on and did a great job. I was really impressed with him. And Bellerin on the other side, I think going forward, it shows you that he is a much better player going forward than he is going back, and his pace really does let him off a lot of the time for poor positioning. His awareness just doesn't seem to be as good as other players in the team. He often finds himself out of position, and like I said, using that abundance of pace that he's got to get back and defend and cover those gaps that he left effectively. And with Mustafi, who actually I thought had a pretty good game, we know how unreliable he can be. It's a recipe for disaster down that right side. It really is. And I think getting Socrates in has been a good deal. I think that he brings experience for sure. He made a few really good tackles today, getting himself a yellow card in the process. But he's another player that I think will definitely help Mustafi grow into a better centre back. I mean, you can't forget with Mustafi, although he is a World Cup winner, although he's played across Europe, he's still relatively young, you know. And I think he has the ability for sure. He is a good defender. I think I see it in him. Just very hot and cold, a very bipolar defender. One game he's really good and one game he is abysmal. Today was a good game for him. I think he had his work cut out for him, but he did very well, and I think actually showed us why we didn't necessarily feel like we needed to sign another centre-back. I think Emery sees it too. I think he sees Mustafi as a good defender, but has room for improvement, and that will no doubt come with time. So yeah, I think that's going to be today's episode. Obviously, this is the first weekend of a long year ahead, and it's Man City after all. It's going to be the same next weekend with Chelsea. It's going to be an extremely tough game. Hoping for a draw is the very best, I think, and because it's such early days, it's not time to panic or be upset. This is going to take time. You know, it's going to take probably a year or two for Emery to really get to grips with this team and really implement his ideas, his philosophy. It's not going to come within a couple of weeks, a couple of months. This is a very different situation to many other clubs that bring in a new manager and kind of hit the ground running. This is a totally different situation. Let's use Chelsea for an example, with their new manager coming in. Chelsea is a club that chop and change their manager all the time. They almost, I feel like, have this situation almost yearly, and they just know what to do. It's written for them. They sack a manager, they follow a sheet, sign a new manager, and they're ready to go again. They kind of have a plan. With Arsenal, it's a little bit different after 20 odd years, you know, with such a huge person in Arsene Wenger, a huge part of the club over the last 2 decades, more than 2 decades, suddenly changing over and giving the club to another person. It's never going to be easy. So I feel for Emery. And by the way, quick shout out to Emery with his English coming on brilliantly. He can speak better English than me already. That guy, I've got nothing but respect for that. A lot of managers wouldn't bother doing press conferences and interviews in English if it's not their first language, at least not in the first season. And he is getting better and better, which is great to see. So thank you for watching, guys. It's a bit of a longer one today. What? How many? 18 minutes or so. Hopefully I got all my points out. I'm probably going to watch it back and think, damn, I forgot to mention this. But I think you get the idea here. I think the number one to take away is just don't panic. It's so early. Things will get better. So thank you for watching, guys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you leave a like as well. And I will see you next time against Chelsea. It's going to be an interesting one.